and welcome Your Excellencies, Your Royal Highnesses, ladies and gentlemen, our special guests. Welcome to the Day of the African Child. It is June the 16th, and every year we celebrate the Day of the African Child. And this year is no different. It is 30 years after the adoption of the Charter for the Agenda 2040 and Africa Fit for Children and Youth. And so as Youth Gather Global, we are truly honored to have you here with us and to commemorate this day, to celebrate the amazing work that we are all doing around the world. And we also come together with many across the globe as we celebrate the Day of the African Child. And today I am blessed to have the country coordinator from Youth Gather Global South Africa, Tembishile Mahua, who is going to be taking amazing notes and takeaways for us today. And so welcome, and let's get started. I'd like to acknowledge the Governing Council for Youth Gather Global, who are here with us today, and you will get to hear from them. Would like to especially acknowledge the chair of the Governing Council, His Highness Prince Dr. Osita Aniemeke, and like to acknowledge our awesome leader, ferocious leader, fierce, the amazing Dr. Ada Okika. So welcome. And I would like to welcome right now Ms. Amaka Gulwe, the Deputy Director here at Youth Gather Global, to give us the welcome and the opening remarks. Welcome, Ms. Amaka.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that wonderful introduction. I would first like to say thank you, everyone, for coming to this event, this Day of the African Child. Your presence here really shows how you are committed, as we all are, to making Africa, making our children in Africa a better place. So before we get started, I just want to go ahead and reiterate what Dr. Diana said about why we are here today. Today, we are here to continue what we started about 30 years ago, the adoption of the 2040 agenda for making an Africa fit for children and youth. So today we continue that messaging. You'll see and hear from all the people who have their own. You'll hear from all the people who have their own messages to give around this initiative. So open your ears, open your mind, open your heart. And as you listen, continue to fuel that fire within all of us that helps us move forward. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you for that, Ms. Amaka. And we're going to welcome the chair of the Governing Council for Youth Gather Global, His Highness Prince Dr. Osita Aniemeka. And we welcome you to present to us the mission of Youth Gather Global to the African Union Charter. Welcome.
Thank you very much, my esteemed director, Your Excellency Ambassador Dr. Diane Kinole. I want to very quickly say welcome to everybody here. My Lady of Africa, Yvonne Chaka Chaka. We are so happy you're here. Thank you so very much. My Chancellor, Dr. Ada Okika. We have been through this program for the umpteenth time, and we're glad we are showcasing them now. Your Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Dennis Antoine, my hero for Youth Gather Global, I always tell them what you've done for us and what you keep doing for us. Thank you for being here, and God bless you. My friend Chief Bennett Yaba, I welcome you very gladly. I wasn't sure you were going to be able to make it today, but thank you so much for coming, sir. Thank you. I want to very quickly say that Youth Gather Global is for the young people of the world. This focus on Africa is just one of the things that Youth Gather Global does. And for our mission to the AU, this is my story. In 2016, while I was the CBN Program Director for the Entrepreneurship Center in the Southeast, located in Umuahia in Abia State, my first class was in April 2016. And while in class, a young boy called Dennis sat there without any sign that he was there. He just sat there for the 3 months of class. We ran a quadrimester program in Umuahia then. After graduation, 2 months after graduation, he sent my PA to say to me that I should come and see what he has done. I said, no, it never happens. It never happens because nobody graduates from an entrepreneurship program and starts a program in 2 months. So I delayed going to see Dennis because I knew that he was either kidding or he just wanted me to come to see him. But by the time I went to see him in October, I was shocked. Dennis had started a bakery. Dennis had hired 5 people. Dennis had bought his own car. Dennis had his own distributorship and everything else. So I said to him, how did you do this? He said, sir, this is a very long story, but I cut it short for you. And that's what I'm going to tell you. Dennis started his bakery, borrowed money from his brother, who was a Reverend Father. And then when the bakery hit the road, he was so disappointed that nobody bought his bread. Nobody bought a single loaf of what he made. In 4 weeks, Dennis ran at a huge loss. So one day he woke up and said to himself, I'd rather pack up this business and just go home and tell myself that I'm disappointed, I have done it wrongly. But he remembered something he learned in class, we called MPS. It's called Market Penetration Strategy. So instead of going back to bed, Dennis woke up and went to the market, started looking for bread. He saw this very large loaf of bread called jumbo-sized bread. I mean, maybe the largest loaf of bread ever. And he said, how much is this bread? In our currency, it's 500 naira. And he said, give me one of them. So he picked up a loaf of bread, went home, he shared the bread, ate it, and it was just exactly the kind of bread he made. So he was asking himself, why would somebody pay 500 naira for bread while I was selling mine for less than 100? So it occurred to him that he could also produce jumbo bread, but sell for a lot less. So he produced his own jumbo bread and sold for 350 naira. So he had 150 naira in Nigerian currency, less money on the shelf. So people came there, bought the bread, and then one woman came on a Saturday, bought this big loaf of bread and went home, shared with his family, and family said, this is good bread. So he checked out the sleeve and saw that there was a telephone number on the sleeve. And that telephone number went straight to the baker of the bread. So the woman called Dennis and said, did you make this bread? Then he said, yes, I did. And the woman said, can you come and see me on Monday? Then he said, of course, I'll come and see you on Monday. So she got there and found that this lady was the director of the state NYSC program in Abia State. And the woman said, can you make bread for NYSC member? NYSC is National Youth Service Corps. Kids who leave school go there for 1 whole year and they just stay paid by government to serve the nation. And their numbers are in drones. So then he started making bread for the NYSC people. So when His Excellency, the governor of Abia State, Dr. Ikpeazu came to see me, I said to him, Your Excellency, I want to introduce one of your sons to you. So when Dennis came to see the governor prayed for him and said, you are going to be a great man tomorrow. When the governor got back to his office, he sent for Dennis. Dennis went to see His Excellency. You know what the Excellency asked Dennis? You make so much good bread for National Youth Service. Can you make bread for all the widows in Abia State, in all the local government areas? And then he said, that's what I do. I make bread. So the prayer the governor made for David was what he achieved for David, because in 2 months, David became a millionaire, making bread for all the widows in 25 local government areas of Abia State. But that's not the story. The story is that when the governor dissolved his cabinet that year, Dennis was his first appointee as special advisor to the governor on agriculture. This is our mission to the AU. We want to create an opportunity to give our youth the chance to raise their head and become proud. African youth are so disgruntled because everywhere you find them, they are at war with leaders, they are at war with government. Government has, in the last 50 years, discarded programs for youth in Africa. You go to Uganda, you go to Rwanda, everything is lip service. So we're saying to the AU, Youth Gather Global is here. We are set up to help the youth of the world. We are in Africa. Today is the day of the African youth. Today is the day of the African child. We want to use this opportunity to offer our services to the African Union to say that we bring our agenda to the table. The 4 agendas of Youth Gather Global are education, entrepreneurship, empowerment, and exchange programs. We work on the platform of the 4 E's, and we set these 4 E's right before the AU to say that we are ready, we are willing, we are available to serve the AU to help bring African youth to a place where they go through disruptive learning and then become their own employers and employers of labor. We are praying to the AU that this mission gets their attention so that as soon as we are done with this program, we begin to find a way to take a rendezvous and begin to broach the programs that will help African youth from all over Africa to grow on their own and grow their own businesses. Thank you so very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Prince Dr. Osita, for that wonderful message and call to action to the AU. Next up, we're going to watch the video presentation for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, please go ahead and observe your screens as we...
A day, and there is no answer to the hunger. And the poverty never seems to go away. They are asking how much longer. Let the children go to school, let there be no reason. They can get an education. I see the beautiful minds coming from miles and miles like butterflies. Let's get the thirst in their eyes. Time is ticking, ticking, it's ticking away. Can't afford for a tomorrow. Yes, I'm looking for Tinu. There's no time to delay. The Africa we dream of, it goes away. Africa, Africa, put a microphone in the hands of our sisters, hear their voices, know their choices. We have the power at this very hour to decide we're losing no chance on the fight. That they will go and live to see their practice and live to see their babies. Time is ticking.
These are young people from the they are looking for their agenda.
Yes, I puts his hand on her stomach. His other hand is on the hard card in his pocket. The doctor knows she'll make it. As for the baby that both parents created, sitting at the gateway, they're the new parents to be. It's a good day. Take a step in the right direction. We took the road less traveled by. We put high in the reins of mental sickness. Now everyone's got the burden of the sadness. Time is ticking, it's ticking away. In the fall for a through, fall for a through. Yes, I know I'm continue on. There's no time to delay. Me, Africa, within us, only take those away. Smoke from factories, killing rivers and trees. Water's not drinkable, situations unthinkable. We must have somewhere to go when we need to go. Overcrowded spaces like a maximum sentence. What we need is opportunity, a world in unity, a level playing field. See where we went wrong. Take a look at the replay. It's time for fair play. Time is ticking. It's ticking away. Get the ball for a through ball. Yes, I know time continue. There's no time to delay. Big Africa, we dream of only take those away. Africa,
Awesome. Really great to see some names on there, and we are so blessed to have one of the singers in that video, Her Excellency Yvonne Chaka Chaka, United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, we're going to carry on with our program, and up next, we want to invite our honorable guest, Miss Yvonne Chaka Chaka, United Nations MDG Envoy for Africa. Welcome, Mama Africa. We thank you for your songs. We have danced to your songs for years, and it's such an honor and a privilege to have you here with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency. I would like to say all protocol observed. I'm very happy to be part of this amazing day, which started in my home country in South Africa. I actually want to congratulate all those students of 1976 who fought tirelessly and said we are tired of being taught in the language that we do not understand. So I'd really like to thank people like Seth Mazibuko, Baby Jana, Fikile Ngobo, and Bongi Mkabela, and thank the UN and thank the AU as well for making this day being recognized by everyone in the world. We know that over 400 children are currently living on the African continent. More than 30% of these children in Africa suffer from the consequences of chronic malnutrition. Physical and mental development disorders affect their daily lives. It's actually very sad that in the sub-Saharan Africa, 1 in 13 children died before they reached their 5th birthday in 2019. What does that mean to us or for us in Africa? About 300 million of the 350 age school children are youth, and they lack the education, which is very sad. The secondary skills education, they're not even reaching, according to the estimates of the Education Commission, whose groundbreaking 2016 report, The Learning Generation, highlighted the global learning crisis. It means that Africa is the home for those people or those children who are not learning or not even going to school at all. When it comes to our girls, it's very sad that 1 in 8 girls in the sub-Saharan Africa are married by the age of 15. If all girls completed their secondary school, we would have that by 60%. So we need our leaders to come to the party, we would need our leaders to make sure that no one is left behind. We spoke about the 8 goals, the Millennium Development Goals, which we think they'd left other people or other things that are very important behind. And we moved to the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 of them. What does that mean for us? The 2063 agenda, including the 2040 agenda, it means we need to make sure that our children are given the chance. It's 30 years after the adoption of the Charter. What has happened? What has changed? 2040 is just around the corner. Some of those people in 1990, they were youth, and today they are adults. I was 26 years old then. Today, I'm 56 years old. What has changed in Africa? I know that we talk of 2063 agenda because Rome was not built in one day, but I urge our leaders, I urge our policymakers to make sure that we do not go back to where we were. We need to move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, our youth today suffer too many things. The pandemic is even worse. Lack of jobs, lack of skills. This is what, when you ask an African child, they will tell you, what does youth mean today in 2020 in Africa? It's lack of opportunities, lack of work, lack of direction, lack of skills. I urge our leaders to look into that for our people. Thank you to the Global Gather, to the Youth Global Gather that really invited me to be part of this today. We want to say, we as adults, we've made mistakes, but we need to forge forward and do good for you. I urge our leaders to level the playing field for our youth. I urge our leaders to make sure that the environment is conducive for our youth to be able to work. We've seen our youth crossing the seas because they want the greener pastures, and some of them die there. What does that mean for Africa? When we talk about these charters and all the aspirations, the 10 aspirations that are part of the charters, we need to make sure that we start walking the talk and we practice what we preach. We thank our leaders who were there before us. We want to say, yes, we appreciate everything that we have done, you have done for us. But Africa should not be this dark continent that everybody perceives it to be. We need to know that Africa is for all those who live in it, and Africa must be a place where the youth can be able to be empowered. Who is able to do that? You and I and those who are in power and the policy makers. Let us level the playing field for our youth. Things are getting worse. The pandemic has worsened everything. Gender-based violence, youth not going to school, young children getting married from an early age, young people succumbing to sexual abuse by different people. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the time to stop now. This is the Africa we want. I'm asking a question to everybody. Our youth are crying. Our youth are not given what they are supposed to be given. Our young girls are being married at an early age. That is not the Africa that we all anticipated. Let us change the status quo. I'd like to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is he's working day and night to make sure that the youth is being listened to. Let us do that, all of us. We having young people in power now. I'd like to also congratulate and thank our president, who is a woman in Ethiopia, and the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed as well in Ethiopia. We don't denounce the old people. Old means wisdom. Let us work together, but let us not forget the youth behind. Remember, when we make these policies, remember when we make all the laws, we need to bring the youth as well on the table. Otherwise, when love is not given on the table, young people are going to leave. Let us make sure that our young people are given the latitude of working, the skill, the freedom to be better people. When we talk about future leaders, remember, they will not be future leaders if they are not empowered today. Let us empower our youth today. His Excellency said he was 27 when he became the banker. Are our youth having that latitude today? No, because of so many things. But this is the Africa that we all want to see tomorrow being good, not the Africa that is going to be raped, an Africa that is going to be milked, the Africa that is going to be known as a dark continent, and we will always have to be pleading. Let us level the playing field for our youth. Let us do it now, because if we don't, we will be judged by the next generation. As I close, I want to say thank you to the Youth Gather Global, and all the like-minded people who are on this platform. But let us make sure that we have chosen this path with all the aspirations that are there. Let us make sure that there's very little malnutrition. We make sure that we strengthen our health system. We make sure that our young people are healthy. When people are healthy and educated, they will be able to fend and do things for themselves, and no one will take them for granted. So it is imperative that we level the playing field for our youth, because tomorrow, if we do not do that, we will point at Africa. We will say that was Africa. But if we work together today, we will make sure that things like lack of opportunities, lack of work, lack of direction, lack of skills for our people is something of yesterday. Let us work together. We've chosen this path. Let no one turn us around. Let us build the Africa that we want, and let us make sure that it is fit for the African youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mama Africa. You should see everyone is just saying wonderful things about what you have shared with us. Let us level the playing field for our youth. Love that you have reminded us that this is going to be a place where our youth can be empowered. And later on, what they are going to turn around and ask us is, what did we do to get us to this place? And we have to be able to give them a valid response. And so I would like to open the floor for a couple of questions for Miss Yvonne Chaka Chaka, Mama Africa. You should see them. They're all saying, thank you so much, Mama Africa. Wonderful, Mama Africa. God bless you for your talk and empowerment and just the work that you have done over the years. I don't think many people get to know it, but those of us that know are so grateful, because we know that we are here because of the positive work that you have done. I would like to ask if you have any questions. There is a Q&A tab at the bottom of the Zoom screen for you to be able to ask your questions, but I will go ahead and open it to the panelists. Does anyone have a question for Mama Africa, Miss Yvonne Chaka Chaka? Okay, I see Tobias and I see Madonna, but Tobias, I'm going to allow Madonna to ask her question. Go ahead, Madonna, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, Mama Africa, thank you for such an empowering talk. And I would like to use my first name, which is Nkechi, my African name, to raise my question to you. I am an indigenous researcher of mathematical knowledge systems in Africa. And I want to congratulate you first and foremost on your necklace, which is an example of an African fractal. And I want to know what you are doing, or if you're doing anything working with math and science educators like myself to promote our indigenous knowledge systems, because the cradle of civilization is Africa. And until, just like the children of Soweto struggled to be taught in their own cultural language, until we go back to those things we have in our culture to foster our creativity and innovation, we will always be left behind. And when you talk of entrepreneurship education, this is part of how it gets done when we go back to what we have.
Thank you very much for that question and congratulations. Unfortunately, I am not a mathematician, but I want to know or think that mathematics started in Africa. So I want to congratulate you for the good work that you are doing. I think it is imperative that our lawmakers should be reminded that the indigenous languages should not be put down. We've allowed people to come from outside to come and dictate to us how we should live, how we should dress up, how we should conduct our things. We need to start taking everything into our hands as Africans and do things that will make us better people and let nobody write our stories. Our stories should be written by us. Our stories should be told by us. We have given latitude to people to do things for us. And that's why it's imperative that the youth have to be given everything that they need to know who they are, appreciate who they are, and work with people like you. You know, as I said in my closing remarks, youth means wisdom or wise. But today, our youth, it's lack of skills, lack of direction, lack of work, lack of opportunities. So it's people like you who are going to impart the skill, and it should be allowed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nkechi, for that wonderful question and the work that you continue to do in the sciences and mathematics and technology and engineering. Thank you so much. Tobias, please go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. And first of all, I would like to acknowledge Mama Africa. You really inspire me as a youth through your songs, and you are indeed a role model to majority of the youth in Africa. My question now to you is, in your music industry, where is the place of the youth? Are you as well using your music industry to mentor the youth? Because majority of the youth today in the entire Africa, they don't have jobs. We have the skills we acquired through class working in our colleges, that those who went to high school, the secondary schools, they have the skills, but getting the opportunities to amplify the skills they have and the techniques they have no one to hold their hands. As the Youth Gather Global, maybe African Regional Coordinator, we have done diagnosis in different countries and found out that the youth in different countries, especially South Africa and other countries in Africa, have the techniques, have the know-how, but remember, they can't start an opportunity to implement it to the end because one, they don't have money, they don't have a mentor to mentor them, they don't have a link to link them to the best opportunities that they think if I indulge in this, I can be able to succeed. So where's the place of the youth in your industry, and then also the opportunities that you may have to be able to have the African child, the youth, to be able to use the techniques they have, and also the abilities and the talents. Thank you so much, Mama African. Blessings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to correct one thing. I really appreciate being called Mama Africa and I love it. But I think Mama Africa was Miriam Makeba. I'm very happy to be called the Princess of Africa. I loved her very much and I respect her very much. And I think that title remains and should be only called to her because she was only Mama Africa and she remains Mama Africa even when she's not there. I would appreciate everybody to call me the Princess of Africa, and I love you very much. I want to remain very young. But Tobias, I want to say the fourth industrial revolution is here. Technology is something that we all use. Other people use it to their advantage, other people use it, to their disadvantage. But for the youth, I'd like to say thank you very much to Tsepi from South Africa, who managed to get me to be part of this. The world is everyone's oyster. The world is opened. Technology is there for young people to use. And it's very, very good to know that our young people really try to work. But do you also ask for a helping hand? I sometimes find the youth, they think, it's not good to ask, or you're not smart when you ask. It is imperative to get the people who are like-minded with you. I do lots of mentoring with young people, whether it's through music, whether it's through public speaking, or just telling them what made me to have the staying power. It's respecting yourself, respecting your art, and making sure that the money that you get, you invest it properly, paying your taxes as well. Those are the most important things that one has to be doing. I know it's not very easy to start a business, but we've got different organizations in South Africa where young people are given skills and different people go out there to help the young people. So with technology, you could work with youth from Nigeria, from Kenya, from Tanzania, or from South Africa, and you can come together and share those skills that you have. You can have a partner in South Africa and somebody sitting in Nigeria. Because of technology, that has expanded everybody's horizon, and that needs to be done. So as I said before, you as the youth, make sure that when these adults and policymakers and people who make all these framework do all these things, you get a seat on the table.
Thank you so much for that wonderful response and call to action for the youth. Asking what do you bring and make sure you have a seat at the table. Thank you so much, the Royal Princess of Africa. We appreciate you and are so grateful to have you with us this morning, this afternoon and evening, wherever you are. Thank you. Next up, I would like to call on Chief Ben Etieba, management consultant, entrepreneur, thought leader, and chairman of Aquila Capital Limited. You are welcome. The floor is yours. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I feel so greatly honored to be sharing the same platform as some of the greatest people in Africa that I admire, and to be having to speak after Yvonne Chaka Chaka, whose music I grew up with while I was still in London. I'm delighted to be here on this platform. I'm precisely speaking because of the work I believe I've done with the youth, especially in Nigeria. Since I came back, I've been back. I was away for 25 years in England, and I've been back to Nigeria for the last 14 years. And by the way, the question is always, when you notice things are going wrong, especially for the youth, what are you going to do about it? And I am on the verge, hopefully by His grace, going to emerge if wishes were horses, the next governor of Anambra State, precisely because I want to take what I've done for the youth into a bigger stage. And whilst I finish this introduction, all of you should take this as an invitation to the inauguration of the next governor of Anambra State on the 17th of March next year. Yvonne Chaka Chaka, you are invited. Okay, I know that will be there. And all of you, please. But enough of that. When His Excellency Dr. Senator Ojiuzo Kalu spoke, I asked a question. Ordinarily, when I have to have my own platform, I don't ask questions because I get to speak when the time is right. But I have to ask him, he served as governor as a young man, and at the time, my mother was governor, albeit for a few months, the only governor who's been a woman in Nigeria. And one of the things she did when she was governor was to take very major steps to implement the Child Rights Act in Anambra State. And somebody like her should be familiar with this and what she did while in office, because she received that in the US during that period. But for me, I see a problem. I see a situation. I'm talking from my perspective, having lived in Nigeria in the Southeast for the last 14 years. I see our children not getting a fair deal, okay, especially in education. I see schools that don't look like schools. I see schools that don't have perimeter fencing, that leave the pupils, the students, with no incentive to study, but to drop out and to go chase businesses from a very young age. I see schools that are not safe for kids to be in. And we all get to hear the terrible news of kidnappings, where all these bandits go to schools to kidnap pupils and students. And we're all touched by that. So what are we doing about it, and what are we going to do about it, given what has brought us all here today? So Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege and honor to be having to share this platform. And I thank Youth Together Global for organizing this and for the 4 E's that they are chasing. And let me just say one or two things from what I have here. And we know that today is the 16th of June, it's a Wednesday. Today we're marking the Day of the African Child, hence we're all gathered here. And we're looking at Nigeria that should be fit for children. And so we join the rest of Africa, the rest of the international community, to celebrate today, but to ponder and ask ourselves soul-searching questions 30 years after the adoption of the Charter. And how do we accelerate the implementation of our Agenda 2040 for an African child? This whole thing started when in June of 1976, 10,000 Black children protested for quality education and the right to be educated in their own language. They marched. A lot of them didn't make it back because they lost their lives. But that moved the world and moved Africa. That 30 years ago, in June of 1991, the OAU, as it was then known, today AU, designated 16th of June today to honor those students that took part in the protest, and even more so, to honor the children that lost their lives in Soweto. So far, yearly, we commemorate this day. The African Committee of Experts on the Human Rights and Welfare of the Child, established under the Articles 22, 32, and 33 of the African Charter on Human Rights and Welfare of the Child selected this year's theme, the theme that we're dealing with today, to mark the 30th anniversary. The African Committee recognizes the importance of the advocacy tool for enhancing the visibility of the Charter, as well as promoting children's rights and welfare issues. In 2016, the African Committee adopted the Agenda 2040, fostering an Africa fit for our children. It is a 25-year agenda. It's a long-term one, and hence we're discussing this today. It is guided by 7 aspirations and 6 calls for an African whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people, especially our women, our youth, and our children. In a conference held in 2015 in Addis Ababa to assess the status of the rights of the African child, it was part of a commemoration of the activities of the 25th anniversary of the African Charter on the Rights of Welfare of the Child. Agenda 2040 is guided by 10 aspirations. The African Child's and the Children's Charter are supervised by the African Children's Committee to provide an effective continental framework for advancing the rights of children, the existence of an effective child-friendly national legislative policy, and the institutional framework in all member states, including Nigeria, the registration of every child's birth and other vital statistics. Every child survives and has a healthy, to ensure that children survive and have a very healthy childhood, and every child grows up well-nourished and accesses the necessities of life. How far have we achieved this in Nigeria, I ask? When we know that education is poorly funded, when we know that those who should be taking care of the affairs of children are more interested in surviving in a society and in communities where the economy is terrible, and where we know that it's every man to his own and God for us all. Nobody's interested in society anymore in Africa, in Nigeria. Anyway, Agenda 2040 was adopted by the committee in 2016 and approved
So I think we're experiencing network issues.
Towards the implementation of the African Child's Charter. The DAC therefore aims at promoting children's rights across African countries, including Nigeria. Observing a day is a constant reminder to governments and non-NGOs like Youth Together Global and other stakeholders like myself and yourselves of the challenges of the African child. According to statistics, approximately half of the African population is made up of children under the age of 18. They do not get basic education like we know. And since most of them drop out of schools, like I mentioned earlier, by the age of 10, especially in my state, Anambra State, and in Nigeria as a whole, it is terrible. It's very sad. Currently, children's education and other rights are being threatened by insecurity, poverty, inadequate budgetary allocation, as well as natural disasters. And of course, we know what the pandemic did to that sector over the last year. The number of out-of-school children in Nigeria is said to be around 10 million. And that's the highest in sub-Saharan Africa. But when I say it's the highest, we also have to understand the fact that we have also the highest population in sub-Saharan Africa. The reason for this large number, despite several interventions, can be adduced for many reasons. While many children and their parents have been displaced, of course, we know what has been going on in the northern part of Nigeria, especially the northeast, with a lot of displacements as a result of insecurity and insurgency. This has wreaked havoc in children being in schools. So apart from our population, we've had peculiar reasons for this to happen. And of course, that's for the Northeast. If you come down to the South, like I said, various other reasons where kids are now seeing acquisition, wealth, unnecessary materialistic acquisition as the way forward. So they want to start early and not value education. According to a recent report, armed groups carrying out kidnapping for ransom, a series of raids in schools, universities, where more than 700 students are taken for ransom in December alone, contributes to this. I've talked about COVID-19 pandemic. Poor funding I've mentioned, poor budgetary allocation I've mentioned, and it is incumbent on all of us. I'm very delighted that the incumbent senator, current senator spoke earlier, who also has been a former governor, spoke, and highlighting what they've been doing in the National Assembly to ensure that things get busy and better for our children, and also what he did as a governor.
Okay, Orji, if you are here, please. Awesome. Thank you so much, Susu College from Anambra State. We're going to go on, and I'm really excited to invite His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Dennis Antoine, who's the convener of the Ambassador Dennis Antoine Challenge Prize for African Children. Your Excellency, you are welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, our distinguished moderator. I trust that you're still holding on there. Throughout this morning, I want to extend my appreciation to the distinguished panelists who preceded me, and to give my ongoing special commendation to Dr. Ada Okika for her leadership in this process. You know, today I'm going to speak briefly on commitment to action for the African child. And it would seem very easy for me to speak at this moment after having heard so many words.
Hey.
Today I am promoting.
Are you still on this meeting?
I'm promoting days, weeks, months, and years of the African child, because it would seem no day is enough. A day of the African child is what we've heard over the years. A day is not enough. And I want to caution that saying the right thing better and more appealing should not be measured as doing the right thing. I believe that raising the bar after each action is quite important. And on this day, a day such as this, we should measure the achievements, because there are so many dates. You recall that we've had the 2040 agenda, and we've had in 2016, when it was launched, 4 years of this ambitious 25-year agenda is gone. We are at the right juncture to look at the progress made in cultivating the institutional infrastructure of our societies to ensure the dignity of the African child. Now, the African child seems to be a beautiful, emotional subject, and one of us can make a very exciting presentation about our concerns for the African child. It is the right time, however, to assess the accomplishment of the past 4 years, just 4 years, and carefully label the challenges which still face us. Now, implementing the African Children's Charter calls for a collective undertaking with all on board. Without any doubt, all African children of the world on the continent, and I dare say in the diaspora, must be brought on board. You know, our action must be for the children, of the children, by the children, in an intergenerational mode. That's why I really appreciate our professor, mathematical professor, who really brought us back to the roots of culture and how we had it. And we have the capacity there, but to instill it is important, and to lift us out of borrowing what is brought into the continent as opposed to using what we have in the continent. Now, remember, Africa is rich, but the people are exploited, so they're poor. Now, I believe that why this Youth Gather Global movement is so relevant as a major success lane to the road ahead. Let's take a closer look at that. Youth Gather represents a global children's partnership to achieve the SDGs, particularly SDG number 4. Now, the member states of the United Nations, as the international community, have pledged to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Now, remember, lifelong learning identifies that we speak of children today, but we who are the panelists for this session were children, and we're still learning and sharing, but we are children of this Africa. So this will require tremendous effort on the part of all stakeholders. Notably, our parents must be brought in to the schools process. Our teachers must be brought into the governance process. Our donors and international organizations must gather as we speak of a collaborative. We cannot just each of us do our little piece by ourselves and not have them connected. So we need to connect the process of engagement for youths so that it is not just speaking about youth from our silo, but a connected process that makes sure we are partnering, just as we see this concept of Youth Gather Global. So I want to applaud Dr. Okika and Youth Gather Global, efforts being made to keep the promise of Agenda 2040. I believe that my participation here is to continue to support, and I will collaborate with Dr. Okika to ensure that we recognize our commitment in providing an incentive to the students of Youth Gather Global. I want to conclude with this brief statement, and I see our moderator is up, so I am going to conclude and say to Dr. Okeke and the panelists and the audience, this has been a very interesting day, and I do hope that the momentum from here takes us onward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Antoine. It's always a joy and a pleasure to have you with us. You are one of our greatest advisors and supporters of the work that we do here at Youth Gather Global. And so we really appreciate your remarks with us and are so grateful for the work that you continue to do. Then the most exciting part of it, where we get to hear from the voices of from African children and youth. And we're going to Nigeria first, and we have Joy.
My name is Isen Joy. I am in primary 5 at Irene Menakaya School, Onitsha. Irene Menakaya School is a special consultative status with economic and social council at the United Nations. Every June 16 at Irene Menakaya School, we join our African region in celebrating the Day of African Child. Our school teachers will educate us about what happened in Soweto, South Africa in 1976. Efforts of the government to help the life of African children better. In my understanding, I was made aware that what caused the riot in 1976 was that children were crying for quality education for their future. 46 years later, African region is yet to achieve overall inclusive quality education for lifelong learning. I am thinking enough is on this celebration and effortless action on the future of African children. Government of Africa should think of getting schools and its environment excellent for overall interest of the African people. We need schools in rural communities to be equipped, and children of Africa in those communities to be like their training children in other parts of the world. We need to have school meals, easy access to school, education support assistance to our parents. Even now COVID-19 has disrupted schools, we need technology and education to help us continue our education. Madam Chair, I want to conclude that this conference I am made to speak as a guest speaker will not be an empty effort. Let the organizers of this conference bring to the knowledge of African presidents that African children are tired of celebrating the Day of African Child without concrete actions to the cries of African child that started in 1976. We need committed actions in terms of available, affordable, accessible teaching and learning resources. We need child labor to be put an end. We need rights of African child to make a priority. African girl child situation should be corrected to their better future. African children in rural communities must not be left behind. Let them be fixed. Thank you.
Then next on our agenda is
Ambassador Diane for the wonderful moderation, and thanks to all our wonderful and excellent speakers. And thank to our Princess of Africa. I've been so much, everybody forgot this face all the way from the United Nations back. Patrick and Youth Africa Foundation and music of Aid Go for Africa is wonderful. Recalling that same song today in our midst. So it's wonderful having you again. And as our princess, the youth of Africa is always your passion, and I know that. And then again, I want to thank our wonderful speakers, especially the Honorable Commissioner who made it from African Union, who made it. She's speaking in Lesotho. Today is African Child, but she made it possible to even have a representation of her. So that shows the concern and the passion she has for what we are doing with African youth. And most importantly, our advisory chair and able guidance advisor, Ambassador Dennis Antoine, I must continue to appreciate him because the entire initiative of Youth Gather Global started with him and his ideas and advice. And he came in early before some of us, and he has been sitting patiently. So thank you, Ambassador, for your continued support. And the challenge prize for this Day of the African Child is a passion that you have relinquished to this wonderful initiative in honor of your global humanitarian services. We do honor you and appreciate you so much, sir. I want to appreciate Professor Nkechi Agwu for her continued practical and creativity and innovation on mathematics. You know, mathematics has always been a problem of people, you know, because it looks too abstract, it looks too uncommon, it looks too unreadable. But the fact that she has started this Debet Doll had brought issue of mathematics to practical terms, and people begin to understand the practical understanding of mathematics. Of course, we know mathematics is such as the simplest and most easy subject, but because of its structured teaching makes it look as if it's a very complex subject. So she has been brought this in this dimension. She has been advocating for it. And I'm glad she's able to bring it today to the platform of Day of the African Child. So we believe that in our report, we have to extend on that in recommendation to African Union to work with that initiative in trying to practicalize teaching of mathematics with creativity and innovations. So we appreciate you so much for that wonderfully. Unfortunately, our youth, our children whose today is for them, are finding it difficult to speak today. And I know that SN Joy from Irene Menakaya School, Nigeria, the two young youth from South Africa, and they're all ready to speak. But I'm so sorry that we can't continue to try the network. I urge you to please send in your speech to us, and we will include them to us to our report. We are continuing on Youth Gather Global. We are continuing on 4 E's of Youth Gather Global. And this is important, that even when we heard from all the speakers, like the Honorable Senator, the Chief Ben Etiaba, and wonderful other speakers that showed up today, it shows that we have more work to do using the 4 E's of Youth Gather Global. And I want to assure that the Governing Council team are more than strengthened to ensure that we get this to the youth of Africa. Most importantly, the youth to start on time to prepare their future. It's not just the door of the African child. It's not just looking at what they can be done, but looking at what they can do for themselves. We are happy that Senator Orji said he started at the age of 26 to hold important positions, and which that spirit is all in all of us. But we need to expand on that to get to where we are going. So I appreciate you all, and I thank you for this wonderful event. And I'll advise the chair to please end the meeting with the